standing as lay minister Peter Watson offers prayers.
Let us pray. We thank you, Lord God, that you have given us the privilege of being involved in politics, which is making city. We thank you that politics is the creative work of making civilized places. We thank you for this borough of Fylde in which we live, for the green fields, the sand dunes and the fresh sea air. We thank you for all that you have created and for giving us the opportunity to also be creative. We bring before you, Lord God, the needs of the citizens of our borough. Particularly remember before you those citizens who are struggling in this time with the cost of living and unemployment and the other pressures of modern life. We ask your blessing and guidance in the discussions that will take place here this evening. We ask you to give us wisdom and compassion as we seek to make Fylde an even better place in which to live. Help us to work together for the common good. Help us to remember that we have a common aim, that all who live within this great field may rejoice in the lives they live here. Amen.
Thank you very much, Peter. That was very eloquent. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Agenda item 1, declarations of interest. Do any members have any personal or prejudicial interests to declare? Agenda item 2, confirmation of minutes. I would like to propose that the minutes of the previous meetings held on the 17th of July 2023 be confirmed as correct records.
I would like to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Are we all agreed? Can we take a vote, please? Thank you. Carried. Mayor's announcement. Can I just ask that you have all your devices on silent, please? And I think, have you put this on all the... No. Right, can I ask that we follow the microphone etiquette and usage? So if you can use the microphones when speaking, and please remember to turn off the microphone when speaking, ensuring you speak into the microphone itself or in the direction of the microphone. And once you've finished speaking, please turn it off. Thank you. Mayor's announcements. Well, I've been really busy and I've hit the ground running, so I don't want to say all what I've done because you'll be here all evening. So I'll just give a little précis of 1 event in May, 16 in June, 21 events in July, 11 in August and 17 in September. If you want to know what they are, see me after. But I have hit the ground running, and on one of the, some of the tables, I think you've got Penny Farm afternoon tea event, and also you've got a little flyer for One Fylde. I went to One Fylde, and it's a really lovely, it's a really good charity. So please either call in or ring and ask to go and see. It's a wonderful charity. So there are little cards on your on your chairs, I think. Thank you. Item 4, Chief Executive's Communications. Tracy, do we have any communication?
Mr. Mayor, there is no communications this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 5, questions from the members of the public. Can I remind elected members and request members of the public to adhere to the wording on their submitted question or amendment. In other words, stick to the wording and don't go off-piste. Thank you. 2 questions have been received from the members of the public. A supplementary question may be asked, but it must arise from the answer to the original question. Ms Yates, would you like to ask your question?
There we go. A question from myself and my friend and neighbour Jade Parish. Is the council aware of the unfolding situation at the station end of Glen Eldon Road? This particular street is home to a tightly knit community encompassing residents facing some unique challenges such as early onset dementia, a family caring for a child with disabilities, an individual coping with multiple sclerosis, and a neighbour grappling with some complex healthcare issues. Of immediate concern to us is the establishment of a residence for vulnerable children immediately next door to the aforementioned resident afflicted with early onset dementia, and in very close proximity to 2 households already housing vulnerable adults. The cumulative effect of this situation is that approximately 20% of the residences on the station end of Glen Eldon Road will become problematic properties. Given our previous appeals for assistance directed to both the council and to the police regarding incidents of violence and disruptions caused by the occupants of just one of these properties, we are urgently seeking clarification on the proactive measures the council intends to implement in order to mitigate and address this issue and thereby prevent our tight-knit community street from deteriorating further and affecting the well-being of the residents on this road. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Vasackley, to respond.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, fellow councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Over recent years, the number of children's homes operating in the borough has increased significantly. As Planning Commission is not always required to change the use of a residential dwelling to a children's care home, the Council has recognised the concerns expressed by the local community that these residential homes are being established in an uncontrolled and uncoordinated manner across the borough. Fylde Council's Internal Affairs Scrutiny Committee, of which I'm chairman, is currently carrying out an in-depth review of how children's homes are regulated, and the first meeting was held last Wednesday and the second meeting is tomorrow. You'll be interested in the objectives of the review, I'm sure, which are to establish how children's care homes are regulated by the various public bodies, to allow elected members and the wider community to be confident that adequate regulation is in place, to ensure interested parties are aware of the regulatory processes available, to understand how the facilities are operated by lead providers in the borough, to make recommendations to other bodies, agencies and the government of the review highlights any areas relating to the establishment and operation of children's homes not adequately controlled, regulated by existing regulations or legislation. The Council will be working with various partner organisations including Lancashire County Council, Lancashire Police and Ofsted, as well as representatives of the local community in order that it can fully understand the issues presented and identify any gaps in the regulation of children's homes. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fasackley. Ms Yates, do you wish to ask a supplementary question?
Yes, please. Thank you for that kind response, Councillor Fasackley. As a result, I would now ask, as has been done before, that a meeting be convened at this town hall to bring together all parties, residents, local councillors, the owners of the properties and local police, under the auspices of a dedicated council officer, to discuss the situation and achieve agreement in order to go forwards.
Thank you for that. That is basically what this review process that we're involved in at the moment is doing. At the last meeting last Wednesday, we had representatives of the service providers. We had a large number of people who provide this facility throughout the borough. Tomorrow we are talking with planning officers, both from Blackpool and from our own planning department. And then there will be a third meeting coming up at which there will be representatives of the public who have been and are being affected by the increased number of care homes that we are seeing in the borough at the current time.
But we are asking for a specific meeting on our specific issue.
Sorry, Ms Yates, you can only allow one question,
Right.
so thank you.
Okay.
I'll take that on board, Ms. Yates.
Thank you, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Thank you, Ms
Chairman.
Yates, thank you. Second question, Mrs Holden, would you like to ask your question?
Good evening. I live in St Anne's Road East in a quiet residential conservation area. Since March 2022, 1.5 years ago, my husband and I have had to live next door to a large, unsupervised Airbnb. It's called the Hot Tub House. It can host 16 to 18 people. The large hot tub is situated against our shared garden wall. I do have a sound clip which I can't play tonight, it's against the rules, but Tracy assures me she will forward it to the councillors. What can the council do to stop, remedy the noise nuisance we endure during the day and evening and night, to relieve us of the intolerable disturbances, as this Airbnb has no host on site to monitor or control, supervise the noise nuisance? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs Holden. Can I ask Chris Dixon, Councillor Dixon, to respond?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Mrs Holden, you have my sympathy. It's horrible living next door to noisy neighbours like that. This comes down to the short-term letting of houses, which is it's a recent emerging trend, and unfortunately the legislation that the council needs to deal with this matter hasn't been adapted yet for us to use from government. The council would normally deal with noise nuisance under the Environmental Protection Act 1990. However, through this, action can only be taken on the people responsible for the nuisance. Likewise, the antisocial behaviour legislation that we can use can't be used in this instance, as it's not the owner of the property that's creating the disturbances. The creators of the noise are essentially very short-term tenants. They're only there for a short period, and that leaves us no time to act as much as we want to within the current legislative framework. I think in regard to Mrs Holden, the council has been working closely with you, and the owner of the Airbnb property as well, I'm glad to see, has been contacted to try and mitigate the impacts on nearby residents. The owner has undertaken, I'm told, to set a time for tenants to turn off the stereo in the hot tub, and is investigating noise monitoring equipment for the property themselves. The owner has also given, I believe, yourselves the contact number to alert him to noise disturbance. The council has asked you to record noise disturbances via the Noise app, which you've just told us. When I got this message, I believe the submissions were insufficient to meet any evidentiary requirements. I'm sure they are now. So we'll have a listen to those, for both proof of a statutory nuisance and as antisocial behaviour. We do understand that the government is considering planning legislation to cover short-term lets, and that's exactly what we need. We need that framework from government for us to actually have some teeth and to be able to do something on that matter. There's no timetable that's been laid out for that legislation yet, but we hope to see it coming forward, and I hope that in future we see our officers working with you and with the owner, and we'll continue monitoring the situation with you.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Mrs Holden, do you wish to ask a supplementary question?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So I've looked at the statutory provisions in the 1990 environmental information, and it does say regarding noise nuisance that an abatement notice could be given to the owner of the Airbnb, so that's the owner rather than the people making the noise, according to 2 criteria. My husband and I both fit the criteria, and we hope, therefore, is it possible for you to enable this abatement notice? And we also would appreciate, since we put up with this for 1.5 years, a time scale of resolutions to the noise nuisance, please. Thank you.
Councillor Dixon.
I'd be more than happy to meet with you after this with the officers to discuss taking that forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 6, question from a member of the council. A question has been received from a member of the council. Can I remind councillors a supplementary question may be asked, but it must arise from the answer to the original question. Councillor Nash, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, I would. When large sums are being pumped into the town centre to improve trading for business, is the council aware of the success of the trading area of St Albans Road in St Anne's, and especially that of Gilly Butchers, who have expanded their business significantly since moving from Wood Street in the centre, and have recently been voted the UK's best butcher's shop? And would the council like to join me in congratulating all at Gilly for a superb achievement?
Leader of the council, Karen Buckley, would you like to respond?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to Councillor Nash for your question. I've no doubt that our St Anne's councillors are aware of the success of the trading area of St Albans Road, but thanks to Councillor Nash, all members are now aware of it, and I encourage them to have a shopping trip down there if any member hasn't done so already. There are some long-standing established businesses in that area that serve their neighbourhood and beyond extremely well, and have managed to weather the storm of the pandemic and come through the other side. COVID grants and furlough were a lifeline, of course, and I've been having a look at the grants that this council, the government put through this council, have given out to the areas, the businesses in and around St Albans Road, and it's good to see that there is a good number of those, and that where we were able to exercise discretion, because we did have some additional restrictions grants, that we have used them in that area, and also there's a few of the businesses in that area that took advantage of our shop front improvement scheme. So it is good to see that we have played a part in the success of that of those high street businesses. And also to take this opportunity to let members know of our most recent initiative, working with STEP, the St Anne's Business Group, is to support their rollout of the Shop Loyalty Card Scheme, which I hope is taken up by businesses in that area. And this loyalty card scheme is also available in Kirkham and in Lytham. I am delighted to congratulate Gigelis for their achievement in winning a major national award. As has been stated, they have been named as Britain's best butcher's shop at the Meat Management Industry Awards. This family business, which moved to St Albans Road from Wood Street, has grown from strength to strength, and in recent years has expanded its offer, adding a bistro next door. It is a fantastic fixture in the local high street and has a loyal following, no doubt due to them providing a great quality product to their customers. I'm pleased to see their success reported in the Lytham St Anne's Express last week, and I'm sure that I speak for all of us when we offer a hearty congratulations. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Councillor Nash, do you wish to ask a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor Buckley for words that I'm sure will go down extremely well in the community there. I would also just mention that it's a very strong community, and you may recall that the community came together to save the Victoria Hotel from demolition some years ago. The community is now looking to move forward again, and as such wishes to improve the gardens that lie to the side of
Councillor
the
Nash, are you
Victoria
coming
Hotel.
to your question?
Yeah, I'm coming to the question, Mr. Mayor. Okay, but I can't do it without a little bit of background. Okay, and these are known as Beauclerk Gardens. They're somewhat neglected. The community wishes to come together to help improve them, and the officers of the council have been there. But may I ask Councillor Buckley that when in previous years you've published what's going to happen to the outlying play and social areas, this was not mentioned. Some of the larger parks were, but can I ask that the proper attention and possibly funding is given to Beauclerk Gardens so that we can carry on the movement that has started and exemplified by Gigli. Thank you.
That is a supplementary question to because you've gone off piste. As I thought.
Mr. Mayor, it is a matter for you whether you wish to accept it as a supplementary question. It should arise out of the answer initially given. So it's between you, Mr. Mayor, and the leader whether you wish to address it.
Yeah, the leaders indicated she would, so we will this time.
That's gracious.
Thank you.
I'm absolutely fine to address that, and I think the best way forward, because I was expecting a further, I suppose, another business question may have come out of that, and I would have said to get in touch with our economic development team, and we've got a great website to support businesses invest in Fylde, but that wasn't what was coming back. So in terms of the open spaces and the parks, what I think best to do is to hand that to our lead member, Councillor Jane Nixon, to take that away with the officers to look at what is needed in that area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Agenda item 7, notice of motion, rural swim provision. I invite Councillor Damien Buckley to introduce the notice of motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the corporate and local plan, this council seeks to maintain rural swim provision. However, we appear to be seeing the opposite. I would like to propose that this council, as a matter of urgency, supports that position and looks at the cost of two options. The first being the buyback and repair of the existing premises in Kirkham, which would ensure swim provision can be reinstated to the area as quickly as possible. Or alternatively, providing a new pool facility, but this must be delivered in an acceptable time frame and not several years away. I would also request that any votes in relation to this motion be recorded. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Buckley, do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to second this motion and I reserve the right to speak later.
Councillor Nixon.
Point of order. May I raise a point of order, Mr Mayor? Is that, I just seek some clarification for members, not to stop the proceedings, but just to be clear that the wording of the notice that was put is not the same that was read out. So I just raise that as a for your consideration, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Nixon is to speak first. Okay. Are there 4 members that would like to take a recorded vote?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That's duly noted.
Okay. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to speak to the notice of motion. The notice of motion isn't actually correct. The corporate plan states to maintain or encourage public swim provision, and this council continues to do so. Any premature or limiting decisions would be unhelpful. So I would like to make a friendly amendment. My amendment is, in the corporate and local plan, this council seeks to maintain or encourage public swim provision. I propose that this council, as a matter of urgency, supports that provision, and in light of recent announcement by the YMCA to permanently close Kirkham Baths, looks at all practicable options to work with both partners, stakeholders, and to support that provision, and such options to be considered by the External Scrutiny Committee.
Have you got a seconder? Councillor?
Yes, I have a seconder.
Thank you. The amendment is now in place. Are there any speakers on the amendment? Councillor Withers.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I was about to second the amendment, but I was usurped. However, there are a few things just to say. It's very disappointing to hear that the Kirkham Baths is closing down and it's reached the end of its useful life. It's been there for many years. In fact, I had a personal interest in this. I was a lifeguard there in the summer of 1977, which is a long time ago, but the bathroom was a state of disrepair then. But you know, from on this side of the chamber, we're very much in favour, of course, of providing public swimming. It's conducive to physical health and to mental health. But the amendment seeks not to restrict the options available. I think we still need to compile more information as to what options there may be, rather than restricting it just to the 2. But we do need to find out what may be possible. So, yeah, I support the amendment and hope it can be carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers? Councillor Threlfall.
Mr Mayor. Yeah, I also was very disappointed that Kirkham Baths had to close, as with many of our residents. But I support this amendment. Lancashire Education identifies in their curriculum that public swimming for children is recognised. I think it is of the utmost importance that our children have swimming facility to further safeguard their lives for the future of their lives, and in danger that swimming will save their life at some point, unfortunate point or fortunate point. So that leads me to stand in support of this notice of motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Can I ask, somebody who's got a phone on or a device, can they please switch it off or leave the room? Thank you. Councillor Collins.
Can I just ask, Mr Mayor? Was the amendment submitted in writing? Can we, for clarity, can we just hear it again? And I would like to speak.
You want to read it then, yeah? Okay, I can read it again. In the corporate and local plan, this council seeks to maintain or encourage public swim provision. I propose that this council, as a matter of urgency, supports that provision, and in light of the recent announcement by the YMCA to permanently close Kirkham Baths, looks at all practicable options to work with partners, stakeholders to support that provision, and such options to be considered by the external scrutiny committee.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. Councillor Redcliffe.
I'm in the position of being able to actually talk about using Kirkham Baths in my role as head teacher at Westham Church of England School. I remember on many occasions wanting to actually take classes to the swimming baths for swimming instruction. I don't think anybody here in the chamber is going to disagree with the sentiment of the original proposal. That's the sentiment. I think what we are saying is that actually our amendment goes closer to the heart of the challenge that we face. I think sentiment is one thing, but we also have to realise that we face a very challenging situation. To limit our response to two particular options would be wrong. But what our commitment is to, as it says, to work with partners to try and deliver swimming provision in a practicable way. And also the reference to scrutiny means that gives us as a council an opportunity to review the situation objectively rather than impulsively go down one particular route. So in a sense, our amendment is about a measured, objective approach. Sentiment doesn't divide us. I think we all want the same thing, but it's how you deliver it. So I'm very much in favour of our amendment. Thank you.
Are you indicating to speak? Yes. Councillor, yes? Yeah.
Regarding the amendment, there's a reference to an external scrutiny committee. I think that is actually has a different name, the Community Focused Scrutiny Committee, and so I propose that be changed to Community Focused Scrutiny Committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Buckley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think as already been said, the concern over the closure of Kirkham Baths is shared right across the council chamber. I'm a little saddened to hear that it's said that that isn't the case. So I'd like to take the opportunity to assure everyone that it certainly is. And you can see from our amendment this evening that the actions that we intend to take and the commitment that we give to the community. Since the announcement from the YMCA to permanently close Kirkham Baths, we have already been actively engaged with Kirkham Town Council to explore opportunities for rural swimming provision, and we will continue to do so. At Fylde Council, we have made our position clear. We supported swimming at Kirkham Baths, evidenced by our continued subsidy, but the operator and the owner of the asset is the YMCA, and it is their decision to close the facility. There's work to be done to understand the provision of swimming, where those YMCA members have migrated to, and the schools within the last 2 years since the baths have closed, and assess appetite for a return. There's also population growth around Kirkham to consider, and where those new residents access leisure and swimming in particular. I'm sure members are aware, those that receive newsletters from the council and members of the public that receive newsletters from the council, that we have commissioned a report from Active Lancashire to look at the provision, first and foremost, and anticipate that this will lead to further consultative work. The council is not an operator of a swimming pool and we do not have the in-house expertise, but we are more than willing to buy this in for such further work. The amendment, as I said, sets out our commitment to look at all practicable options to work with partners and stakeholders to support provision of public swimming. I trust all council members will agree with this way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hayhurst.
Well, Mr Mayor, I'm quite happy with the amendment, but apart from it leaves out a couple of words, or one word anyway, which is the word rural. It does say that the council supports provision of public swimming, but it doesn't say supports the rural public swimming. And I feel that the word rural needs to be put into the amendment, in which case I'll be quite happy to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think really it's already been said what I was going to say. I think we're pushing on an open door here. We all want to see the return of swimming to Kirkham, but I just worry that this does send us down two very distinct paths, which might not be best for the people who want to go swimming in Kirkham. You know, it talks about the buyback of the site. That's not in our gift to start with. There might not be an option for us to do that. If we do buy that site back, are we getting the best sort of swimming pool that we could get, really? I believe it's not even the standard swimming pool length these days, so really should we be looking for something better? And the other part of it, again, it has already been said, that you know, the council should operate a new swimming pool. Well, we don't operate swimming pools. We'd like to go into partnership with a swimming pool operator, and I just worry that the original motion sends us down the wrong path. I'd go with the amendment because we want to see swimming return to Kirkham, but not limited. Thanks.
I was going to come to you, Councillor Buckley, to sum up. Is that what you're... Yeah. Any more speakers? Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First of all, I'd like to ask Councillor Dixon, is she happy to include the word rural swimming facilities in her amendment?
I don't actually think it's necessary because it does say public swim provision. So it's a public swimming provision. I don't think rural actually needs to be. It's in the borough. It will be in the borough of Fylde. Okay, Kirkham's a rural area, and looking in that area for a swim provision, that's what's the work undertaken. But it's a public swim provision that we're talking about.
I've lost my glasses, Mr Mayor.
I can't help you with that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The YMCA will soon come up with a disposal plan for Kirkham Baths. This council has 1 month to consider that plan. We might agree to it, might disagree to it. If we disagree, I don't know what happens after that. But if we agree to any sale to a third party, then the option of refurbishing and reopening Kirkham Baths will be lost forever. The corporate and local plans have already been mentioned, but not in rural areas specifically. At the recent public meeting at Kirkham Community Centre, attended by the Chief Executive Officer of Fylde YMCA, there was talk of new baths costing 4, 5, 6 million, something of that order. Now, when you look at the costs of new pools, that figure's been plucked out of the air. I would love to see a brand new facility in Kirkham in the rural areas. But when we look at the cost, I think this council will ultimately come to the conclusion that this is something we cannot afford, even with other partners coming into it. An internet search shows what other authorities have spent. New pool costs vary considerably. Most are built with other associated leisure facilities, and the range is between 15 million and 45 million approximately. Fairly recent new pools are Kirby, 15.5 million, opened in 2022. Morpeth, 21 million, 2023. Medway, 24 million, opening summer next year. Blair Gowrie, 36 million, opening in December next year. Exeter, 44 million, opened in April 2022. And some of these new pools do not come without problems. Dundee Olympia was opened in 2013 at a cost of 31 million and has had to be closed for repairs costing a further 6.1 million. That's due to reopen this month. Then we have to take into account the time it takes this council to make a decision. I was first elected to this council in 2003, and at that time this town hall was considered to be not fit for purpose. And the thinking then was that we needed a new town hall at a cost of 2.5 million. By 2010, the estimated cost had risen to 7 million, after already spending approximately £1 million on aborted plans and feasibility studies. It was then that the decision was taken to look at refurbishing this building and making it fit for use. The whole process, till we actually moved into this new chamber, was nearly 2 decades. But refurbishment was by far the cheaper option. It's anyone's guess what that final cost of a new town hall would have been if we'd gone down that path. Nearer home, Ribble Valley, we're considering a new pool. The existing pool is only 25, 30 years old, something like that, but it's got a lot of problems with it. There's no problems with Kirkham Pool, the actual pool itself. The estimated cost rapidly rose to in excess of £12 million. That wasn't including anticipated land costs of £2 million. Because of that, they are now looking at refurbishing the Ribblesdale pool as the more sensible option. Refurbishment was the option chosen by Chiswick, and their pool was reopened at a cost of 2.8 million after a full modernisation of the facility. Fylde Council and Kirkham Town Council have jointly commissioned a report from Active Lancashire on the need for swimming provision in Kirkham and rural Fylde. But we already have the Fylde Facilities Review. It's a dated document, but it's referred to in policy HW3 of the local plan. And it states that the level of pool provision falls well short of Sport England guidelines. This was before the closure of Kirkham Baths. So we still need additional facilities. But I believe the costs of a new pool are likely to be prohibitive, even with any grants or Section 106 monies that may be forthcoming. And the time it would take for any new facility to be open to the public will mean a whole generation would have very limited or no access to public swimming facilities. From the limited research I've done, saving Kirkham Baths appears to be not only the sensible option, but also the only achievable option for a small authority like Fylde, and the only option that will return swimming facilities to Kirkham and the rural areas in a timely manner. We have not yet received the YMCA disposal plan, but I support any move by this council to buy the building back, to fully repair, refurbish the baths, taking advantage of any grants that may be available, and to appoint a suitable body to oversee the running of the baths. We've heard it's not fit for purpose, but the actual pool itself, there's nothing wrong with it. It's an Accrington brick building. It needs a new roof. The report we have from YMCA said £1 million, you could have the place reopened. We could reopen it and spend an extra £1-2 million, perhaps something this authority can afford, and really bring the building up to speed. Instead of which, building a new facility, be it in Kirkham or Lytham or wherever. A lot of the problems with pools, these pools are only 25 years old. Kirkham Baths is over 100 years old. There's nothing wrong with the pool. Why why try and fix something that isn't broken? The only thing that's broken is the roof.
Councillor Collins, you've only got 5 minutes to speak to the amendment, and I think you've just come up to that. So can I
All right,
ask you to...
thank you, Mr Mayor. I think I've said all I want to say. I would support this motion if we could add the words rural to the amendment.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers? Councillor Ledge.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Forgive me, because I'm new to the council, I'm not 100% on procedure. I just wanted to speak around the motion in general or around the amendment. I'm not sure. Will we be discussing the motion after this, or are we just discussing it?
Councillor Buckley will be asked to sum up, and then we will take a vote on the amendment. So if you're speaking to the amendment, that's right, yeah. Tracy will come.
Yes, we're speaking to the amendment at the moment that's been moved by Councillor Nixon. If the amendment succeeds, we'll then take that as a substantive motion, and in that case we won't go back to the original motion, but if it fails then we will. So at the moment we're speaking on the amendment.
Okay, so it's logical for me to speak now then. Thank you. I wanted to speak about this. In Weston, the schools in my area use Kirkham Baths. I learnt to swim in Kirkham Baths. I went to school there. I used to work there. I worked at Kirkham Baths when Filed ran the baths and sold it to Royal Splash YMCA. And I think at that time, as an employee who was only 17 and was the first person to be made redundant there, I could tell then that this moment that we're seeing now of the pool closing was, inevitable because of the way it has been taken care of by the council previously, and then being set up to fail, Royal Splash and YMCA not being given the support and funding they need to keep such an essential service running. And I think we in this council and our predecessors may have to bear some moral responsibility for this inevitability of this essential service closing, because we haven't given it the support that it has needed over several decades. There have been discussions about whether this is a matter for Filed or a private organisation, a charity, or Lancashire or the UK government, but I think it's government somewhere, whether it's Filed or elsewhere, and I think from our part we can show some leadership to try and save this facility for children and people across the borough. Those of us who can financially afford to swim elsewhere will do so, but that is not an option for lots of people. I think that in terms of the building itself, there was a point raised that perhaps we cannot, it's not an option to spend money to save this building. I would challenge that. I think it is a choice of this council whether or not we put money towards saving that, and I think it is an option that we should look into, as well as other options. Yes, lastly, I would just encourage the council to show some leadership and some creative thinking in trying to save this important baths. And also, as a very last little point, as well as the swimming provision, the building itself is a very important historic building. There are almost no buildings, swimming buildings like this in the country. And so there is that sort of extra heritage we'll be losing, as well as the facilities for people across the borough. Thank you.
Councillor Lee.
Yes, very quick. Most has been said already. Obviously, the amendment, I support that with the various options. I think it's more wider, more open there. But just look at the title of this motion: rural swim provision. If we take out the rural, it's gone. I'm sure that, as everyone's saying about the loss of Kirkham and so on, is this is a rural facility. So to keep it back in rural, I can't really see a problem putting that back into the amendment. Please, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Gorn.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I support many of the sentiments that have been raised this evening, but fundamentally I do support the amendment. Whichever way we go here is going to be costly, and we do have an obligation to safeguard taxpayers' money. What we need is a full evidence base and a business plan to take this forward, and that's why we need to keep all options on the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gort. I'm sorry, Councillor Collins, you can't speak. No. Councillor Buckley, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Unfortunately, I can't support the amendment, and I can't support the amendment on two reasons. One, the omission of the word rural. Kirkham Baths is at the heart of rural Fylde, and to not include that wording implies that there is potential to move it away from rural, which then means that the smaller villages out in the rural area potentially could have further to travel. But more so, I don't believe the amendment does broaden the options that are available. This has been suggested that it goes before the Community Affairs Scrutiny Committee. I'm on that committee, and I know how long things take to progress through that committee. A working group will be set up. We don't have that time before the YMCA's report is in, and potentially a for sale sign goes up on the front of the building. That building could potentially be sold within the next 4 to 6 months. That will still be with the Community Affairs Committee, I'm sure. So for that reason, I can't support the amendment. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Tracy is going to clarify about a recorded vote on the amendment. I think that's... aren't you going to say about that?
Yes, Mr Mayor, just to comment, when the recorded vote was requested by Councillor Collins and supported by other members, it was requested on the original motion and not on the amendment, so just some clarification. If I take a vote at this point, it will be via show of hands rather than a recorded vote.
Thank you. I will now...
Amendment read out again, just so everybody's quite clear on what they're voting on.
That's fine. Okay, the amendment is, thank you, Mr Mayor. In the corporate and local plan, this council seeks to maintain or encourage a public swim provision. I propose that this council, as a matter of urgency, supports that provision, and in the light of the recent announcement by the YMCA to permanently close Kirkham Baths, looks at all practical options to work with partners and stakeholders to support that provision, and such options to be considered by the External Scrutiny Committee.
Could that be the committee?
I'm sorry, Councillor Taylor. We are now going to take a vote on the amendment. A show of hands. In favour of the amendment. And against. against. 14 against. So the vote has gone with the amendment. Yeah, now we need to take the amendment to the substantive. Thank you. Oh, Councillor Collins.
Mr Mayor, could I propose another amendment to what is now the substantive motion and ask that the word rural be inserted in front of swimming provision?
I need it in writing. Can we give you a minute or two to just put it on?
If you've got a photocopy, it's just the word rural in front of.
In front of where, though?
And can I ask for a recorded vote on that amendment? Yeah, rural. Yeah. Public. Well, but you can put as well as.
Can I answer to this?
Yeah.
Just say it's not.
Can we just have a point of order on that? Is that means it's not actually accurate because it says in the councils. It doesn't say rural in the councils. That's why it was worded that way.
Councillor Taylor.
Can I also propose an amendment to the amendment, if that's the right way to put it, replacing the word external scrutiny committee with community focused scrutiny committee. Thank you.
Second my amendment.
Somebody would need to second that amendment from Councillor Taylor unless Councillor
Well,
Collins is
we've got
happy
my
to...
amendment in first.
Yes.
To make it quite clear, you could include Councillor
Okay.
Taylor's amendment in my amendment, and I believe I've got a seconder. And can I ask for a recorded vote on this amendment?
Do you have support of 4 other members for a recorded vote?
Recorded vote.
A recorded vote,
Thank you.
4 members.
Okay. Would anybody like to speak on the amendment?
Would anybody like to speak on the amendment? Councillor Dixon.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. It's just for accuracy that the original amendment was worded that way because that was the wording, as was explained, in the council's own mission statement for swimming. Those were the words from the council's website. So now it makes it actually not accurate because the council doesn't for rural. It's for swim provision. Now that was the reason it was worded that way because that's what's in the council's. I don't know what
Corporate plan.
in the corporate plan.
Yeah.
Now
It's including rural.
Yeah, which includes the rural areas. This council is in contact with all of the relevant bodies in Kirkham and all around that area to sort out swimming pool provision. It wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't looking at bringing swimming back to Kirkham.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Buckley.
Thank you. I just want to try to reassure members that there is nothing sinister in the fact that that word rural is not in the amendment. It is simply because Councillor Damien Buckley's original notice of motion, which seeks to say what the corporate plan says, is inaccurate. So, as Councillor Dixon says, and it says in the corporate plan that we support public swimming, we support that across the borough. We wouldn't be embarking on this evidence gathering, looking at all the options, if it wasn't the case that we were supporting rural swimming. We are being accurate in what the phraseology in the corporate plan, and there is nothing sinister about the omission of the word rural. It's a shame that this is being used as such, because it's not that at all. And just to deal with also the fear that all of a sudden there'll be a disposal plan for this council, and before we know it, we'll lose the building, lose the swimming, lose the building, and lose the heritage. The disposal plan must be agreed by this council. So that is a matter for this council to agree to the disposal plan. So again, I don't want people to be feared about that step in the process, because this council will be determining that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hayhurst.
Well, Mr. Mayor, the trouble is that some of the villages that I represent are 13 or 14 miles away from Lytham, and unfortunately there's no public transport even to get them there. So it's absolutely vital that we do have a provision in Kirkham. Now, if the ruling group was quite honest, they would amend their amendment. It may be that the word rural is not enough, but it should say including the rural areas, because the fact is at the moment it says a provision for swimming. We have an A provision, which is in Lytham, but we haven't got it in St Anne's, sorry. I always class Lytham St Anne's as the same. Yeah, it's that little place down the road which gets all the money from this authority. So the fact is the word including the rural area could be inserted, and that would make us all feel a lot happier.
Thank you. Just to clarify, Councillor Dixon, it's provision, isn't it? It's not a provision.
It says a
It's provision.
Or encourage public swim provision.
It says
Provision. Right. Thank you.
Any more speakers on the amendment?
Any more speakers on the amendment? Councillor Redcliffe.
You've only got to go back to the words. People are sort of trying to sow sort of discontent and a lack of confidence and some sort of conspiracy. I know we live in a world where people love conspiracy theories. But just look at that one sentence which says to work with partners and stakeholders to support that provision. It is very, very clear what commitment there is in this statement. And we are very serious about this. And I don't like the fact that people are insinuating all sorts of underhand conspiracy sort of strategies going on here. I mean, the fact of the matter was the first, suggestion, the amendment, was inaccurate. And we've tightened that up. And now we're saying to work with partners and stakeholders to support that provision. It's pretty clear that there's a genuine commitment that we want to work for a solution here to be able to provide swimming provision. It's how you go about it and that particular option that eventually you decide upon. And I want people to understand that there's a sincerity in our intention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question,
Councillor
Mr Mayor? It's the word that or a provision. When it was read out before, it was a provision.
No, it's that provision.
It's
says
that
it on,
provision now, so
yeah.
it's changed.
Yeah. Councillor, no, it hasn't changed. That was on it there. Councillor Buckley, would you like to sum up again? You don't have to because you've already done it, but because there's been other speakers, do you want to sum up again?
I don't think I've got anything further to add, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to take a vote on the amendment.
It's a recorded vote, Mr Mayor, as requested on the amendment, as moved by Councillor Collins. Would anybody like me to read it out again? Is everybody clear?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. In the corporate and local plan, this council seeks to maintain or encourage rural public swim provision. I propose that this council, as a matter of urgency, supports that position, and in light of the recent announcement by the YMCA to permanently close Kirkham Baths, looks at all practicable options to work with partners and stakeholders to support that provision, such options to be considered by the Community Focus Scrutiny Committee. And Mr Mayor, if I will call out individual councillors' names, if they could indicate if they are for, against or abstaining. Councillor Frank Andrews.
Against.
Councillor Tim Armitt is absent, I think. Councillor Liz Bickerstaff. For. Councillor Julie Brickles is not here. Councillor Damien Buckley.
For.
Councillor Karen Buckley.
Against.
Councillor Edward Collins.
For.
Councillor Peter Collins.
For.
Councillor Chris Dixon.
Against.
Councillor Martin Evans.
Against.
Councillor Kelly Farrington.
For.
Councillor Sue Fazakerley.
Against.
Councillor Joanne Gardner.
For.
Councillor Ellie Gaunt.
Against.
Councillor Gail Goodman. Councillor Noreen Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Gavin Harrison. Councillor Paul Hayhurst.
For.
Councillor Karen Henshaw. Councillor Paul Hodgson. Not here. Councillor John Kirkham.
Against.
Councillor Jordan Ledger. Councillor Matthew Lee. Councillor Michelle Morris. Councillor Ed Nash. Councillor Jane Nixon. Councillor Sandra Pittman. Councillor Richard Redcliffe. Councillor Richard Redfern. Sorry, it's wrong on the sheet, I beg your pardon. Councillor Vince Settle. Councillor Bill Taylor. Councillor Thomas Threlfall. Councillor Viv Wilder. Councillor Michael Withers. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Anthony. And the Mayor, Councillor Little.
Against.
Thank you. So the amendment's lost. Mr Mayor, the amendment is lost. There were 14 for and 19 against. So now we move back to the substantive motion.
And we're having a recorded vote for the substantive.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do you mind saying the names again?
Yes, Mr Mayor. So again, if members could indicate if they are for, against or abstaining from the substantive motion as proposed by Councillor Nixon. Councillor Frank Andrews. Councillor Liz Bickerstaff. Councillor Damien Buckley.
I'm sorry, you voted. No. Right, carry on.
Councillor Damien Buckley.
Can I ask you to repeat what we're voting for?
On the
Yes.
substantive, the amendment on the substantive.
Could you read that back out?
No, we've read it several times now. She's read it 4 times, so no, that's the section.
Sorry. Yeah. Can she change it if she's done it already?
Yeah.
It's whether you want to allow her to change it.
No, she's voted. I'm sorry. No,
Right,
I'm sorry.
okay.
No, I'm sorry. We've recorded that as 4. Thank you.
Councillor Damien Buckley. Councillor Karen Buckley. Councillor Edward Collins. Councillor Peter Collins. Councillor Chris Dixon. Councillor Martin Evans. Councillor Kelly Farrington. Councillor Sue Fazakerley. Councillor Joanne Gardner. Councillor Ellie Gaunt. Councillor Gail Goodman. Councillor Noreen Griffiths. Councillor Gavin Harrison. Councillor Paul Hayhurst. Councillor Karen Henshaw. Councillor Paul Hodgson. Not here, sorry. Councillor John Kirkham. Councillor Jordan Ledger. Councillor Matthew Lee. Councillor Michelle Morris. Councillor Ed Nash. Councillor Jane Nixon. Councillor Sandra Pittman. Councillor Richard Redcliffe. Councillor Andrew Redfern. Councillor Vince Settle. Councillor Bill Taylor. Councillor Thomas Threlfall. Councillor Viv Wilder. Councillor Withers, Michael Withers. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Anthony. And the Mayor, Councillor Little. Thank you. That is carried with 21 votes for and 12 votes against. That closes the debate, Mr Mayor.
Thank you for all your help there, Tracy. Thank you. Agenda item 8, in-year budget increase, St Anne's levelling up round 3 funding application. I invite the leader of the council, Councillor Karen Buckley, to introduce the item.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. In expectation of an announcement of a third round of the levelling up bid, the proposal before Council is for an in-year increase to the capital programme to develop a multi-million-pound bid for St Anne's to deliver part of the master plan which was agreed by this Council last year. The St Anne's master plan covers an area from the railway station through the square to the pier and then along the promenade gardens through the island site and up to Fairhaven Road. It is an ambitious and exciting plan designed to support business, encourage visitors and enhance the area for residents' enjoyment. St Anne's USP is the beach, the vast stretch of sands enjoyed by locals and tourists, so evident by the recent International Kite Festival. The master plan recognises the central attraction of the beach and seeks to maximise connectivity to the town centre and along the promenade. I have seen many plans, strategies, policies, action plans in my time on the council, but they will make no difference at all if left on a shelf. To put us in the best possible place to win funding from the government, we must commit to deliver the master plan. This proposal before members is to fund a professional team to prepare the scheme for 3 main interventions in St Anne's Town Centre, as outlined at paragraph 10 in the report. And that is the station gateway, Square East and the active travel link. The costs breakdown are set out in paragraphs 13 and 14, and they total £499,761. If this council is serious about delivering the master plan and making transformational change in St Anne's to improve the environment for all, then this is a necessary step to put us in the very best place to be awarded the external funding. Mr Mayor, I move the recommendations and have a seconder. Thank you.
Councillor Redcliffe.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to second that and I reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak to the item? No. Oh, sorry. I couldn't see you behind my light.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to say our borough has 2 large tourist attractions in St Anne's and in Lytham. People come here for holidays, people come here to enjoy everything that we have to offer. Without it, our borough wouldn't be as it is, so we do need to support this this item because the funding will make a huge difference to how St Anne's actually works, and it'll add the connect from the town centre to the beach, bring the 2 closer together if the master plan is carried out. So the funding is vitally important to keep our area in the limelight, keep St Anne's busy. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Councillor Farrington.
Thank you, Chair. Mr Mayor, sorry. I mean, reading the report, I would agree with the previous speakers about the many elements being important. I think half a task or half a job won't work here. So to see the list is quite compelling. The thing that worries me, having already heard about plans being dusted off shelves, and also having heard the speaker earlier this evening talk about a 20-year decision on on the town hall is just timeframes, because this is something that easily we could spend nearly £500,000 on, and you know, it can just drag on, and then we'll have another election and it will be forgotten. So I've just got a quick question, that is there any time frame that's been put on this, please?
You can't ask a question. It's not a question and answer
Apologies,
forum. Okay.
I'm being new to this, I've forgotten that, but I'll make the point again that timeframes worry me, so I would hope it will be carried out in a timely fashion.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Dixon.
I mean, I might be able to help there in that. Because the point I was going to say, Mr Mayor, is really it's now or never. If there is another round of this government funding coming, we know if we haven't agreed to put that funding in place, it will already be too late when that round of funding comes out, because they want shovel-ready schemes. And if you've not already agreed the funding and put that funding in place, you will not get that extra £5, £6, £7 million.
Thank you. Councillor Redcar.
I just want to, first of all, endorse many of the comments that the leader has already articulated tonight. This is bold, it involves a vision, it's ambitious, and without this commitment, we won't be even in the race to get the money in round 3. We've already spent some money on the first phase in terms of the event square, which will strengthen our bid for round 3, even though our round 2 bid was not successful. Round 3 is very much about, as Councillor Dixon said, and we've learnt from that experience of the previous round, that this particular scheme is conducive to those that are ready to push the button and go. All the statutory work, all the preparatory work has to be in place, and that involves also the necessary investment. It could unlock £5 to £6 million, and it could do many of the things that the original master plan, voted through by this full council a little while back. The essential thing here is that the master plan is very much based on linking up the town square and the front. When consultants have looked at St Anne's, they clearly have said your biggest asset is the beach for drawing people in, but the beach and the square do not work effectively together. Round 3 would enable us to develop the rest of the square and also the active links towards the front. The time frame, as already has been emphasised, is now. It's as simple and blunt as that. If we do not take this action now, I suspect we will miss out on a real opportunity for funding the next phase. The work we're doing now will help our bid, but we need to build on that, and it needs to be almost a consecutive process with no delays. So I'm very, very pleased to support this particular proposal, and I hope that members will also support it. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr Chairman, Mr Mayor. I am also a big fan of this proposal. Being a St Anne's Town Councillor, I have followed this proposal from probably about 4 and a bit years ago, and I would like to encourage the whole council to give it its wonderful support. I believe that we have, like was said, the best beach in the whole of the area. That is our USP. And if we can help our businesses, our residents, our town to bring together the tourism and the town, we will have a fantastically buzzing town. To see the town busy during the Kite Festival, to see people coming off the trains, people, well, you just couldn't move within the town. I think this proposal helps to do that, so I am massively in favour, and it gets my full backing.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. And anybody else like to speak to this item? No. We will now take the vote. Do you want to sum up, Councillor Buck? No. Thank you. We will now take the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Agenda item 9, invitation to accept appointment as Mayor 2024-25. I invite the Leader of the Opposition, Councillor Matthew Lee, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I stand today not to make a simple mayoral nomination, but to actually make history. For today, it's the first time in the history of the Borough of Fylde that a former mayoress of Fylde is being nominated to become the next mayor of Fylde. In 2011, the now Alderman Howard Henshaw was appointed mayor of Fylde, and his wife Karen became the mayoress. Today sees the start of those roles swapping, as Councillor Karen Henshaw is nominated to accept the appointment as our new mayor, and presumably Alderman Henshaw as the mayor's consort. I'm sure that Councillor Henshaw's first-hand experience in this role, combined with her experience and dedication as a borough councillor, will ensure that she has a full and successful municipal year. There will no doubt be a far more glowing nomination speech at our AGM, but for the time being, I would like to propose that this council invites Councillor Karen Henshaw to accept the appointment at the 2024 annual meeting as Mayor of the Borough of Fylde for the municipal year 2024-25, and I have a seconder in Councillor Peter Collins. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I stand to second that nomination. It does give me great pleasure. I got on this council in 2023. In 2003, Councillor Henshaw got on at the same time, I think, with the last two remaining ones from that intake. I've known Karen a long time, and I think she's waited a long time for this. I look forward to making a longer speech in May. Thank you.
Does anybody want to wish to speak to this item? No. We will now take a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Schedule of meeting 2024-25. I invite lead member for Finance and Resources, Councillor Ellie Gaunt, to introduce the item regarding the schedule of meetings for 2024-25.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In putting this timetable together, every effort has been made to avoid major religious festivals and school holidays. I'd like to thank members and officers involved in this process and propose the timetable in the agenda. I do have a seconder.
Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to second this schedule of meetings for the municipal year 2024-25. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to speak to this item? No. We will now take a vote. All in favour? Thank you. Agenda item 11, Police and Crime Panel for Lancashire. I invite lead member for Social Wellbeing, Councillor Chris Dixon, to introduce the item regarding this nomination to our outside body.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This is a recommendation to nominate Councillor Matthew Lee as an additional member of the Police and Crime Panel for Lancashire. That's one of the ones which I'm on, so I'd very much like him to come along to that. And if you could pick me up tomorrow about 3 o'clock for the trip to Blackburn, that'd be most helpful. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder, Councillor Dixon?
I'm happy to second the item.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak to this item? We will now take the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Agenda item 12, Independent Persons Allowances. I invite lead member of for Finance and Resources, Councillor Ellie Gaunt, to introduce the item regarding independent persons allowances.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to propose the increase in the independent persons allowance. They are a discrete but important part of our governance framework. I have a seconder.
Thank you. Councillor Withers, are you happy?
Yes, Mr Mayor, thank you. I'm happy to second the proposal.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak to the item? We will now take a vote. All those in favour?
Again, that's
Okay, carried. Oh, cracking on now. Agenda item 13, Constitution Amendments. I invite Lead Member for Finance and Resources, again,
Me again.
Councillor Ellie Gaunt, to introduce the item regarding the Constitution Amendments.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just briefly, these amendments are a means of setting out the usual order of business at Council, and in doing so provide that the public are usually heard first at Council meetings. I'm happy to propose the changes.
Thank you. Councillor Withers.
Yes, I'm happy to support this one, to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak to this item? We will now take the vote. All those in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. Agenda item 14, Chief Executive's Terms and Conditions JNC Handbook. I invite Lead Member for Finance and Resources, you all know her, Councillor Ellie Gaunt, to introduce the item.
Thank you again, Mr Mayor. These changes are brought about as a result of our membership of the Joint Negotiating Committee and the need to alter our disciplinary procedures to meet the JNC requirements. Very briefly, these changes mean that if the Chief Executive faced any disciplinary proceedings, the Chief Officer Employment Committee would form the Independent Disciplinary Committee. The Public Protection Committee will undertake the role of the Appeals Committee, and the independent persons will form the independent panel. I therefore propose the recommendation and do...
Let me guess, is it my...
Thank you,
Is it
Mr
Councillor
Mayor.
Withers?
As the junior partner in this double act, I'd like to second this item as well.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak to this item? No. We will now take a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. And that concludes the business for today. Thank you very much for all your attendance and your content. It's been really interesting. Thank you very much.